afternoon, folks. Jeff Morris here. Thank you for joining us here on this episode of Common Ground. Today we have Representative Jack Ladyman with us. Jack here serves as the House Representative for the 59th District here in Arkansas, which of course covers a good portion of Craighead County up in the northwestern part of the county. Right. So, Jack, we're proud to have you here with us, and thank you. And
thanks for inviting me, Jeff.
Yes, sir. Look forward to hearing from you. So, give us a little bit about what happened last week. I know that, of course, as the chairman of the House Public Health, Welfare, and Labor Committee, that's a mouthful. You've got quite a job ahead of you, don't you?
Yeah, it's really, it is quite a job.
Yeah.
It is one of the busiest committees down there in the House, and we do run a lot of bills that draws a lot of interest. And one of those bills we ran this week on Tuesday was the optometrist versus the ophthalmologist. I shouldn't say versus. The optometrists are asking to have a wider scope of practice.
Okay.
Things that the ophthalmologists are doing now, they want to do 5 things. Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Mississippi already allow this, but there's a big discussion between the two medical groups about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay.
So, you know, we had about a 2-hour debate in our committee. We had 38 individuals signed up to speak on the bill.
Wow.
So it was a crowded. It was standing room only. We actually had to have some people go out in the hallway. So it was a very a bill that had a lot of interest. The bill failed. The vote was was 9-10 with one not voting. So it was very close. I expect bills like that, when they're close, they will normally come back for a second go. So the sponsor of that bill, which is John Eubanks from Paris, he told me he's going to modify it a little bit and bring it back. So we'll be hearing that again. But that was one of the biggest bills that we ran in my committee. Telemedicine. We ran the telemedicine bill yesterday in committee.
Sure, that's a big one. Last week we had Representative Dan Sullivan with us, and that was one of the ones that he was discussing with us. Yeah.
Well, it's an important bill.
It is.
And I appreciate Dan bringing that forward, because I think it's something that we really need to debate about or talk about for rural Arkansas.
Sure.
Because what Dan's bill did, he's already told you this, but it allowed people to make the first call on telemedicine by verbal only. In other words, no video was required.
Gotcha. Okay.
And again, there was a debate between the doctors and the doctors who want to do telemedicine about whether that was adequate. You know, were they getting adequate medical attention by not being able to see the person and you know, see what condition they're in.
Right.
So there was a healthy debate about that, and that bill failed. Again, it may come back. I think the vote on that was 10-10, I believe.
Wow.
No, it was 9-10 with one person not there.
So that was a close one.
Yes, both of those were very close. Too close to call. So I could not call.
Sure.
This.
You know, yesterday I saw on the news that and talked to a couple of our legislators here about the highway plan. You know, highway funding is such a critical part of really any legislative session. It seems like this whole plan always gets thrown out there because whether it be a infrastructure bill on the federal level or an infrastructure bill on the state level, you know, we all want good roads. It's just a matter of, well, where does that money come from?
Well, you know, Jeff, that's a subject we could talk about for hours.
Oh yeah,
it is a big deal, and there's a whole bunch of things involved here. And of course, we've voted down the highway plan the last 2 sessions that I've been there. But our roads, the condition of our roads is getting serious.
Sure.
And the second part of that is, if we want to grow our state economically, we have to have a good transportation system. I mean, that's one of we have to have a good tax structure, we have to have a good transportation system. Education is another thing, but that's one of the key elements. And so we have to maintain our roads. It's a question of how do you pay for it.
Absolutely.
That's the big question.
And that's one that comes about every session that we always throw around. Yeah.
And I mean, I voted against it the last 2 sessions because I felt like we should draw funds from the general fund to help pay for that. There's a bunch of reasons for that. Because cars are being more efficient, so you're not they're not getting as much income from that gas tax. You got electric cars who aren't paying anything for the road usage. So you got a lot of things involved there. So I felt like we needed to get something from general fund, and it needed to somehow be tied to inflation or prices of things going up. That's the other thing. Gasoline is not really tied to that.
Right.
It's not a commodity that rises like a car. The price of a car goes up year over year. Gas goes up and down. So we're losing a lot of funds there, the amount of money that we're getting for roads, and the roads are getting more use. So, it's a bad situation. The governor would never relent to that. This time he did. In his bill, there is general fund money that's going into that. So I think it's a better bill. And it did pass out of the Senate. It will go to transportation in the House this coming week, so we'll be debating that this week.
Sure. And one of the things considering this highway plan, a lot of people talk about private-public, or rather public-private partnerships. I'll get it right here in a minute.
3 Ps.
But the P3s, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, does that play any kind of role here? I mean, is that anything that's been
it's been discussed.
Around,
as a matter of fact, the National Council of Legislators, I go to that, and I'm on the Infrastructure and Energy Subcommittee, and I've attended a couple of those three P meetings, and they're good, but the circumstances have to be right.
Right.
So when you're talking about highways, the volume has to be there, and this has been looked at in Arkansas. We do not have the volume on any roads. There might be a few in Little Rock.
Right.
But that's about it.
Okay.
So it's just not, it doesn't look like it's a viable option.
Whenever you look at these P3s, one of the topics that's been kind of kicked around here also is, as a state, what do we have to do to encourage industries and entities and private business to engage in that type of thing? I mean, we can only give so many tax breaks. So, I mean, what are you hearing from these people that they're willing to come to the table and
Well, I'm not really hearing anything. There may be more going on some of the other committees that are like Agri, that are more economic related. I don't know. But we do have businesses like Walmart and Tyson and some of that really do that more on a voluntary basis than a contract type basis.
Sure.
So I think those companies are willing to help the state. They're self-grown companies. I think it's education, really.
Right.
I really think it is. And then having a mechanism to do that. And here's another thing we need to do, Jeff, is we, as legislators and our business leaders probably do this better than we do, but we need to go outside our state. We need to go to these meetings like the ones I went through, which are eye-opening. I mean, energy, I've gone to a couple of those.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. And then we need to bring that back and try to help get the word out of how these things work at other places.
Sure.
Las Vegas, I went there last year, and I went to a meeting about drones and self-driving cars. Downtown Las Vegas, they've got taxis that you get in and you say where you want to go, and it takes you.
Wow.
I mean,
that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they've had it for about 6 or 8 months.
Wow.
So if we don't go outside our state and see these things that are being done, we don't know about them. And then we can bring that back and tell people what's going on, that it is possible.
Sure thing. Actually, I think that this weekend the governor's in D.C. meeting with Microsoft and all kinds of folks there. I saw on Twitter earlier that
Is
he
he?
was...
Yeah, the governor's convention's this week.
Okay.
He's not playing basketball Monday night.
Yeah, he isn't playing ball.
He's in Washington. So.
Okay. Last week, the governor did sign the abortion bill. Tell us about that.
Yes, I think he signed it early in the week, and it passed through the Senate and the House without any difficulty. In our committee, I think it was like a party line vote.
Okay.
Pretty much on the House floor, it was pretty much a party line vote.
Okay.
So no issue with that. All of the Republicans that I talked to were 100% for that. And of course, what that does, if Roe versus Wade is overturned on the federal level, then abortion would be illegal in Arkansas. Okay. So for Arkansas, it's a good thing. And I told on the floor, I've started a folder of top 10s, things that Arkansas is in the top 10.
Right.
Trying to get out of the bottom 40s.
Absolutely tired of hearing that mess.
And we are the third most pro-life state in the union.
That's awesome.
So
Something we can be
that's in
proud
my
of.
folder. So
Absolutely, yeah.
and this helps.
Sure thing. It also saw last week that you guys, members gave some citations to different folks. We know the Don Zimmerman family, and also to Miss Arkansas Claudia Ralfo. So tell us about those.
Well, the Miss Arkansas presentation is good for us in Northeast Arkansas and in Jonesboro because she is from Jonesboro.
Yeah.
And all of the Craighead County representatives went down into the well and presented her with the citation for being chosen as Miss Arkansas.
Awesome.
So it's something that we should be proud of here in Northeast Arkansas.
Sure.
And those are fun things to do.
They are. They are. And then Zimmerman.
The Zimmerman thing, I had approached the speaker months ago because Don Zimmerman, he was executive director of the Arkansas Municipal League. He worked at the league for 58 years. His father was the director, and then he took over when his father died. He'd been with the league for 58 years. He passed away this summer, and I thought he should be recognized because I worked with him when I was a mayor. And Lane Jean, who's in the House, we are the two mayors in the House of Representatives. Lane had worked with him. So Lane and I went down the well and we gave a citation to his family, his wife, his widow, and all of his sons and his grandkids. There's about 15 of them there, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Because Don he loved Arkansas.
He did.
I mean, I knew him very well, and he loved the cities of Arkansas. And I'll never forget, I was on the executive committee of Second Class Cities, and Don came into a meeting. And he was all excited, and he had just signed the 500th city in Arkansas to the Municipal League.
Wow.
So all 500 cities are members and have been ever since, to my knowledge. And this was a city of about 60 people.
Wow.
So here's the executive director of the Municipal League going after a town of 60 people just so he could get everybody to the table.
Yeah. So. No, Don was a great guy. I've had the opportunity to hear him speak a few times over the last few years, and every time that he spoke, I mean, he spoke with just that same passion that you're talking about. He is Arkansas personified. And so,
he is, and I was glad we could honor him.
Sure thing. I mean, I think all of us owe a great deal of gratitude to Don Zimmerman. So.
No matter what your political stance.
Sure. He did a lot for everybody.
He did.
So coming up, there are
let me
quite a
mention
few
one
things
more
happening.
thing
No, go ahead.
before we get away from
it.
the Governor's Transformation Bill, which everybody's familiar with that. And the way we did that, we had 16 different bills that had to be reviewed in state agencies. I'm on state agencies. Dwight Tosh is chair of state agencies. So we heard all of those. We heard the last 4 this week. And the governor come in and talked to us. The Senate also heard those. And we didn't do an up or down vote, but we reviewed them, asked questions, and then they all came out of those committees. And we'll go back to BLR to be put into one bill.
Right. So it'll just be one package deal.
1,500 pages.
Wow.
And what it does, it changes, I forget the upper number, 44 agencies down to 16.
Man.
In state government. So I think it's a really good thing.
Oh, yeah.
But what the problem that it's causing us is there's so much work for the lawyers over at BLR.
Yeah.
From when we sent that back over on Thursday, they're going to be 10 days putting this together. So our bills moving through the process are going to be slowed or shut down for a period of 8 to 10 days.
Until they get that taken
which is going to slow down the process.
Yeah.
But it's going very well.
Something has to be done.
It does, and the acceptance of his transformation plan has been good.
Sure thing. Anytime, and I've said this on this series a few times before, but anytime that we get the chance to slash some government red tape and kick some bureaucracy to the curb, we're happy to do it.
Well, you can't say this is not reduction of government when you reduce 44 agencies to 16.
Sure.
That's a good move.
I mean, that's a big deal. It is. So now coming up, of course, we've seen several things kind of running in the mill, if you will, here over the last few weeks. There have been a few things that I know have kind of sparked a little bit of controversy, and for good reason. We have this assisted suicide bill that's come up, and it wasn't too long ago. I forget which state that it was, but I read an article where this happened. What's your take on this?
Well, I was surprised when I saw this bill was filed. And Representative Douglas from Northwest Arkansas filed this bill. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him. I don't know why he filed this bill, but I was really surprised that a bill like this was filed in Arkansas.
Sure. I mean, this is really disturbing.
It is. It is. And it may be an individual situation with him. I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I don't know the details of it.
Sure.
He just filed it last week. I'm not sure what committee that'll go to, but that was a House bill.
Yeah.
So it'll come to our committees first.
Okay.
That may go to judicial. It may come to public health.
Yeah.
Whether it's a legal or
Yeah.
a health question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like it would come your way, but
With our luck, it probably will.
I'll at least do my best to withhold judgment on it in my mind until we find out what the intent here is. But just looking at it from an outside perspective, just doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. But if it comes to our committee, I think that's a good thing because the health committee vets the bills
Right.
better than any other committee.
Sure.
The telemedicine bill, I think every member of that committee spoke up on that bill.
Okay.
So that means that they're all paying attention and they're seriously looking at the bills. So I hope it does come to our committee because it will get vetted.
Sure. Well, another thing that we have here is the scope of practice. Dan and I talked a lot about scope of practice, and it seems like every guest that I have on here seems like we talk a lot about scope of practice.
Well, scope of practice is a big deal.
Yeah.
They call it Scope Week. This past week was Scope Week, and
So is this part 2?
Yeah, this must be part 2. Well, they asked me, I had to set the date for that, and I said it starting last Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they said, well, that's Scope of Practice Week. Are we going to get all these done in a week? I said, well, no, we're not. But we have 20 Scope of Practice bills.
Man.
And we've probably done 6 of them maybe now this week. But a lot of them are related. Scope Week is kind of like homecoming in high school. It's kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Everybody comes to the Capitol. But we're going to talk about the APRN. That's the Advanced Practical Registered Nurses.
Right.
There's been an ongoing debate between the APRNs and the general practitioners primarily about what the APRNs are able to do.
Right.
And, can they prescribe? They can prescribe medicines, but to what level?
Right.
Can they work unsupervised?
That's a big part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's one bill that talks about a collaborative agreement. Right now, an APRN working out in a clinic out in Bono, as an example, has to have a collaborative agreement with a doctor somewhere in Jonesboro or somewhere that can be anywhere.
Right.
And that doctor has to sign off on everything.
Right.
So one of the bills is to eliminate that collaborative agreement.
Okay.
And just, if they need help with the physician, they ask for it, kind of thing. So there's 6 bills related to that, and we will be debating those this week.
So give me a prediction. How's that going to go?
On those, you can't tell. It's another 10-10 kind of situation. So we will see. Out of those 6, there's probably 4 that doesn't have a chance. But a couple of them were ran last session, and they were close. There's possibility.
They've done some work on them to get them through this time.
They have, and the big issue here, and it keeps coming back, is access to health care in rural areas and cost of health care.
Yeah.
And most of these bills that we've been looking at, scope of practice, would reduce the cost of health care to people in rural areas because they don't have to go to a Jonesboro, Little Rock, or Fayetteville for care, and they don't have to go 2 or 3 times.
Right.
So it does reduce cost, and it does give them access in rural areas. So that's really the debate.
Sure.
But on the flip side of that, you don't want to go too far where they get bad quality care.
Right. Well, I mean,
inadequate.
You're right. Sure. I mean, you have to strike that balance between the quality and convenience.
Yes.
And here in Craighead County, of course, we've been very blessed to have the doctors and medical resources that we do here. But I mean, let's say that you go up to the far corner of the state or go down through the Delta. I mean, you take someone from Helena and these same type of things happen, and all of a sudden, are they going to Little Rock, to Memphis, or what are they doing? But still, yet we don't want to do anything that's going to compromise that care for everybody. So we end up with bigger issues. So it's a fine balance.
It is, and you get, if you have a an elderly lady that lives by herself and way down in South Arkansas someplace, and she has to see cataract surgery or something like that, and she has to go all the way to Little Rock or someplace, and doesn't have the means to do that, doesn't have the transportation, she may not even get the treatment.
Right.
So you have to balance those things.
Sure.
And it's a difficult call.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts within that, so I'd hate to have to make that decision. But and also, we have our constitutional amendments that are coming up to specifically to refer the half-cent sales tax to highway improvements. So what's going to happen there? I mean, we have the highway plan that the Senate passed last week. Now we have this constitutional amendment to refer that decision to the people. So how do those things play together?
Well, they do play together because the highway department needs over $400 million. The bill that was passed out of the Senate only provides about $300. So to meet the needs, we need this other bill to meet what they think their needs are. So it would be an inadequate, according to the highway department, it would be inadequate if we didn't pass both of those. As far as the chances, of course, the way the constitutional amendments work, they come to state agencies, and these will come to House first. So this one we will hear next week probably. I think there's about 40 proposed amendments.
Wow.
So we'll have to go through all of those and listen to all of those. And the House can pass one out, the Senate can pass one out, and then one has to be agreed on, House and the Senate. So a maximum of 3. We don't have to do 3, but that's the max. Right. So this one here is one of the more important ones for us to deal with, and it's the renewal of a tax. I mean, it's not an additional tax, but it is renewing a tax that had a sunset on it.
So when did the sunset? I mean, how far extended?
2020, I believe it is. But see, this has to go out to the people.
Absolutely.
So for it not to sunset, for the people to act on it before it sunsets, we have to pass it out this session.
And also want to talk a little bit about basketball. Do you play basketball?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yeah,
I love
basketball.
Good?
Well, ask somebody else. Ask the guy I'm guarding. I don't know. But
so what's going on with basketball?
Well, I enjoy basketball. I've always played it, and I really enjoy it. And every year since I've been there, we've done this 6 years. I've played on 4 of the teams. The Senate and the House plays a basketball game at UALR. And we'll be playing Monday night at 7 o'clock at UALR, Stevens Arena out there. The Senate will play the House. We have celebrity coaches. The celebrity coaches are Sidney Moncrief and Joe Klein. I requested Sidney, but the Senate has more authority, so they got Sidney. We got Joe Klein. Joe Klein. Maybe he can teach us how to rebound. But it's a fun thing. It's to raise money for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And we've raised around $30,000 every year for this. And the local TV stations down there cover it. I've played on it, like I say, 4 years. Dan Sullivan played a couple years. He's not playing this year. But it's just a fun time. We'll see. Out of the 6 years, the Senate has won. We won the first 3, the House. The Senate's won the last 3. So this is the rubber game here.
So who's going to win?
We are.
You are. Okay.
But it'll be fun.
Well, if I see you out there trying to dunk on John Cooper or anything, then I'll be there to take pictures.
I don't think that'll happen. We'll see.
Well, anything else that you'd like to share with our folks here that's tuned in with us?
Well, no, it's just a real busy time in Little Rock. We're getting into the busiest time, and a lot of bills coming through. A lot of other bills that we didn't talk about, not quite as significant as these, but still important. And we're going to be there for a while.
Oh, yeah. Jack, I appreciate it. If you need something, you let us know. And folks, we'll see you here next week. Thank you much. Bye-bye.